Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Horb. I'm with the Technology Support Group here at Kibble Equipment. So in this set portion of the clinic, we're going to talk about Operations Center and also some mobile apps that might help you be more efficient with your planting season. The whole goal of this session is to make you more efficient when you pull into the field and you're ready to plant. So you're not sitting there manually typing things into the display when you could be planting. So the actual number one documented variety in all of North America is dash, dash, dash. And I can understand why that is, because if you get to the field and it's fit to go, it's fit to plant, you're more profitable just getting seed in the ground, and sitting at the end of the field idling, putting hours on your tractor is not productive. But in order to get good data on the backside that we can analyze how well our varieties did based on planting date, soil type, etc., it's critical that we do this setup first. So to start, I'm going to get logged into the website, the Operations Center website. We're going to spend some time on the website, and then I'll switch gears and we'll show you some cool new things on the mobile app. So this is your session. If you got any questions, just feel free to chime in and I'll address them. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to Google Chrome. So Operations Center likes Google Chrome. This is myjohndeere.com. So if you don't have an Operations Center account to start, this is where we'd go. Log into My John Deere. You might not think you have a website account for John Deere, but you likely do, especially if you've got anything to do with John Deere Financial, with Farm Plan, or with a loan on a piece of equipment. So this website, this is what it looks like. This is where you can also look up parts and go and simulate a display. So what Margot showed you on how to navigate the SeedStar monitor, you can actually simulate that right here. But we're going to spend our time in Operations Center. So I'm going to click my account here. And again, if you haven't created an account, it'll prompt you right now to create an organization that you can use for managing your farm. So this is a test farm that we have. We have only 2 fields in here to keep it simple, and we have a tractor and a planter just for demonstration purposes. So on the top here, I'm just going to go high level how you navigate the website. Whenever you log in, it does default to the map page, which is where we're at right now, and it shows your fields if you have boundaries. So this is where you'll notice a lot of things don't look as easy to navigate when you don't have boundaries. So it is nice to have boundaries in the system. The fields are color coded based on the last operation. So you can see in this field, the last thing I did was harvest, and there's a legend down here shows harvest. In this field, the last thing that happened in here was seeding. On the top, there's different menus based on category, setup, plan, analyze, and then more, which is kind of a general bucket. We're going to spend most of our time in the setup area. But before I do that, I want to call out on the right-hand side here is this question mark. This is our help menu. So you probably aren't going to remember everything that we talk about today. So if you're in the website and you cannot recall how to do a certain task, you can click on this question mark. And there are a few different resources here. Release notes. This is where John Deere publishes what they've changed over time. John Deere actually updates this website or the mobile app at least twice or at least once every 2 months. And so these release notes will tell you what's new. How-to videos. John Deere has a playlist on their YouTube channel with relatively short, that 2 to 6 minute range of videos on how to do different things in Operations Center, both the website and the mobile app. Contact support. This is where you can open a ticket with Stellar Support if you are having an issue. But here, this help documentation, I'm going to click on that. This is basically the operator's manual for Operations Center. That's kind of a mouthful. But this is where you can go in and find how-to articles for a variety of different things. I'm going to do the search here, and this search is actually pretty good. One of the most common questions we get this time of year, and I actually just got a text message from an agronomist wondering how can they upload prescriptions in Operations Center and then send them to a machine. So I just typed in prescription, and now there's a few different things here. There is actually a tool in Operations Center where you can create prescriptions yourself called Agrian. But this one here, how to upload third-party prescriptions to Operations Center. So I'm not going to read all this, but you can see there's a little short screen capture that shows you all the steps that you need to do to zip or compress those shape files and get them uploaded to Operations Center. So this shows you how do you do it for one shape file, and then how do you do multiple. So that's just an example. This is a very, very common question, but that's just one thing that you can log into the help docs, and usually you can find an answer to any question you got. Okay, so I'm going back to my Operations Center map. So the first thing to do before we create a setup file, so a setup file is how we can get all of your farm names, your boundaries, your guidance lines, flags if you have them, created and then sent into your machine so that when you're at the end of the field, you'll have all of your lists pre-populated and you won't be manually typing things in, which is where we get dash, dash, dash for a variety. So the first thing we need to do is first make sure our field setup is correct, and then also after that, make sure our products or varieties or chemicals are selected. So in order to start this process, I'm going to click on Setup and then go down to Land. So it gives a short description. This is where we manage our fields, farms fields, guidance lines and boundaries. And this list is going to be, since this is a test account, this is pretty concise. A lot of people I've seen, if you've been doing any documentation for any amount of time, this list can be very, very long, and it can be full of garbage. Because if let's say for example, I pulled into a field and I didn't see the field name that I thought should have been there, and I named it Smith Farms with a lowercase s, but it should have been Smith Farms with a capital S, then it'll create a second field. So that's where we get junk in the system. You'll see this is a common interface throughout Operations Center that they're working to streamline. It defaults to this map view, but I actually, to start, when I'm doing data cleanup mode, I like to hit this table view, and then this is almost like just a glorified spreadsheet. It gives us some details. These two fields have boundaries. You can see these two fields do not. If there's just a little polygon shape with a slash through it, that means there's no boundary. You can see the area, if it's got a boundary or not, if it has any guidance lines or flags. And then this is a very handy thing here too. This field here, this south field, the last time that we did any work in this field, in this account, is 2006. So what are the likelihood that you're going to do anything this year? It's probably pretty minimal. So you can go through and select these fields that you want to get rid of, and then hit Archive. So all Archive is going to do is going to put it in a holding bin, basically out of view. It's not going to delete any of the map data. It's just going to make it so you don't see it in your list of things to send to your tractor. See on the top here too, there's some good tools to sort, especially if you have a lot of fields that you want to sort through. See, these two fields don't have any work. That's another filter on the top here. You can see Deere calls these filter chips. If I want to click on no work, it's going to show me only fields with 0 work. Which fields don't I have boundaries? And then if you want to filter by client name, you can actually click on this and check the box, and it's only going to show you the fields that are in that filter. So I encourage you, spend some time going through here, archive the fields that you don't want to see anymore. And then if it's time to add, you can actually hit the add button here, and then it steps you through the process on how to add a field, flag, boundary, or guidance line. So I'm going to just quickly add a field. And I'm going to do test 2. It is always a good idea to have a field name test. So when you're in your yard doing your test and tune day or your practice day, choose that test field so you don't create some garbage data that's going to end up in a field that you actually farm. I'm going to click Save. And if you're starting over or starting from scratch, really think through, before you start typing, start thinking through that hierarchy of your fields and your farms. Typically, what we see, a client is the owner of the operation. So maybe you yourself and a sibling farm together and you have your financials totally separate, but you farm together, you would have 2 clients. And then typically a farm is, let's say you rent 5 fields from me, you would have a farm named Horb Farms, and then those 5 fields would be fields underneath Horb Farm. So that's a typical structure. Also, people set it up how their crop insurance agent wants it structured to make it easy for reporting. legal description. So it is up to you ultimately, but make sure you think through that so that going forward you don't create a lot of garbage. Okay, now there is one report, or I guess I want to catch one other thing. There is a new feature here. If you did have fields that you created multiple names for, and there's 3 or 4 of them that are garbage, but they're really the same field, you can check the box next to those fields that you would like to combine, and then click merge. And then it's going to walk you through the process. It's going to show you which fields you're merging, and then you're going to choose. This is they're a little far apart, but that you're going to choose which field you want to keep, which field name. So this is kind of relatively new. This functionality is now in land. It's kind of hidden in a different spot before. But one nice thing, so once you're all done, there is a report that some folks print off. So I'm going to hit export. I'm actually going to back it up. I'm going to select just these 2 fields, but if you select all, if you've done a good job of cleaning up your field list, you can hit export. You can actually dump it out in a spreadsheet to get the raw data. But I'm going to choose PDF, and I'm going to list the boundary shapes. So this is a nice hard copy you can print off and put in the cab, especially if you have folks that aren't relatively familiar with your farm. I know we're supposed to be in a paperless society, but there's a lot of uses yet. So you see this opening page is the summary. These are the fields that I selected. So if you had 30 fields, it would zoom out, and this would be something nice that you could take to a plot printer and print off and put on the wall in your office. But now we have the boundary of the field, the 2 guidance lines for this field, and then this field actually has 2 flags. So if I scroll down, it gives me the guidance line names, their headings, and lat long, so if something really bad happened and you need to manually type them in, you can do that. I've also seen people, after they print these out either on their computer or just manually with the marker, highlight certain points in the field. Hey, this is where you pull in to tender, avoid this area, etc. So nice hard copy backup. Okay, so now we've gone through, we've taken the time to clean up our field list. So now we're going to go through and set up our products. So click on Setup and then Products. And the whole idea here is that if we know, by this time now, I hope that everybody's got their seed purchase for the year. So you should have a nice list from your seed supplier of the varieties that you have purchased. So instead of manually typing them in the display, we can preset those up right here. So this is my list right now of what I had in the system before. If there's a variety here that you're not going to plant or a chemical that you're not going to use, you can go through, check the box, and hit Archive. So now they're not going to show up on your list. After you get done doing that, now you can hit Add Product. Just like the land tool, there's a nice orange or yellow plus symbol. And I'm going to start with my seed. I'm going to hit Variety. So Deere is working, I'm not sure who they're working with, but they have a really comprehensive list of products here. So I just typed in 5438, so that's the DeKalb variety. I checked the box and see now it added to my list on the right. It's very rare, but I have seen it where maybe brand new hybrids aren't available in this database. You can click this Add button and you can manually add a chemical or variety here. But I'm just going to continue to work through my list here, add a couple more varieties. P0507. Okay, so I've gone through, I've added all my varieties. We're just going to plant corn this year. And now I'm going to switch to chemicals. So similar process, just type in what you're looking for. Just keep in mind, if you have a chemical that's spelt weird, you're going to need to type it in the way the company spells it. Ingenia. And unless one, or let's do what we had to do. Okay, so I'm going to hit Next. Gives me a summary. What's nice with the chemicals, it gives me the registration number. If you need to keep track of that for custom work. Hit Save. And now they've added. So one step further, if you are doing your own spraying, and now that you've added all your chemicals, you can create tank mixes in Operations Center and send to your display so you don't have to manually type them in. Pretty common for us to see in the reports, soybean pre 2022. And it's just documenting the total volume of product, not what's actually in that tank mix. So I clicked on tank mixes. This is where some people miss this. It's right up here. I have to add my products first. But once you've added them, now I can create a tank mix. So I'm going to put, we're going to overall total volume is going to be 20 gallons an acre. Now I'm going to add my products. Again, don't make fun of me if this is a dangerous combination. So here's my 4 products that I'm going to put in this tank mix. Hit next. Okay. So here's my 4 products. Now I put the rates per acre, and I can go in and change the units. Okay, so now it automatically calculates. It says, okay, this is your chemicals, and then here's how much water you're going to have. And you can change that if you're doing 28% or whatever. You can change the carrier. And then here, this is kind of nice. This is for your reference only. So you got a 1,200 gallon tank, and you're going to spray 1,000 acres. It'll quickly spit out how many acres per tank fill, how many tanks needed, and then what is the total amount that you need per tank. And then you can add some notes. Or I'll show you a quick calculator if you want to calculate a partial. You know, in the notes you could put tank mix order if that's critically important. Make a name for it. This is important. This was going to show up in the display, and then you can filter it by crops, make it only available when you're spraying certain crops if you want. Just going to click Save. There. Now my tank mix is available to send to the display. If you want to come in here later and let's say you got a half a tank or only a certain amount of acres you need to spray, you can hit Calculator, choose that tank mix, and then that calculator that we had on the bottom is available right there, so you don't have to manually type everything in again. Okay, so we've got our land set up. We've got our products set up. Now we're going to create a setup file. So this process hasn't changed a whole lot in the last several years, but we'll go through it. So I click on Setup File Creator. And you can see on the top we have step 1 through 6. So it walks us through all this step by step. So I got a Gen 4, so I choose that display. And then you create a name. A lot of people will put Planting 2022 or whatever makes sense for you. And then I'm going to hit Start in the lower right hand corner. So now we're in the land section. So if you did a good job of getting everything cleaned up ahead of time, now you can just hit Select All, and that should be pretty straightforward. Or if for some reason you did not want to send a certain field to a certain machine, you can go out there and just check the ones that you want. I'm going to choose everything. Hit Next. Now I choose my equipment. So if you have a JD Link enabled machine, they will automatically be in here if we move them into your account. So this is a machine that we have in the system. This is going to be our planter tractor. And then you got to remember an implement. So here we have our planter. If you're in a combine, you need to make sure you add your heads. So if you did not have that planter already set up in Operations Center, you can click Add Equipment right here, and it will let you add. If it's a John Deere piece, the simplest thing is to punch in your full serial number, search it, and it'll pre-populate everything. But if you don't have a serial number, if it's a non-Deere piece of equipment, you can manually set that up. Okay, so we're going to go next. Okay, now we choose our products. So we did a good job of cleaning everything up, so I'm just going to select all. This is going to select all my herbicides and my varieties, and then let's say I'm creating a sprayer file. I want to remember my tank mix. Operators, this is totally optional. Some people want to keep track of who's actually doing what in the cab. This is not required. There are quite a few co-ops that do this. So if you do want to do that, you can click Add Operator and name all the people that are going to be operating the tractor. We're going to skip that now. Hit Next. So now we have a summary of what's all included in this setup file. Click click Create File. And now this is what is awesome. Another reason that's awesome about wireless data transfer. If I have a wirelessly connected machine, I can just check the box next to it, hit Create and Send, and now it's going to go to that machine, and once you key on, you'll pop up and say, hey, do you want to import this file? And then now you have all your farms, fields, guidance lines, and your products. But I'm going to hit Create without sending. Okay, so that's the traditional way that we've used, or that we've done setup files in the past, but there is now a new one if you have a Gen 4 display, and that's called the Work Planner. So the whole idea behind a work plan is that I would hope by now you have a plan of what you're going to do in each field. You're going to probably plant corn in this field. You're going to choose this variety because that's what you and your agronomist talked about. You're going to plant it at this rate, or you're going to use a variable rate prescription. So since we know all that now, while we can't plant, why not create a plan so then when we get to the field, it automatically populates. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here, and then I have a short video that'll show you what it looks like in the cab. So to create a work plan, I'm going to click Plan, and then Work Planner. This is something we can also do on the mobile app, as long as we've populated all of our fields. So I got Work Planner. I got to make sure I choose my right year. It's 2022. I'm going to do a seeding plan. And then right now, I'm going to click on Plan Seeding. So these are my only two fields. You can do all of your corn fields at one time, all your soybean fields at one time, but just for an interest of time, I'm just going to do one field. So I'm going to choose my south field. Oh, south field. It's interesting that that's the south field is on the north side of the road. Okay. So I'm going to hit Next. And so now here's where we walk through. See the preview of the field. I'm going to choose my crop. I'm going to do corn. I'm going to do 0507, and you can add more than one variety. I know one of the biggest hang-ups I get from these plans is somebody says, well, you know, ideally I'm going to plant this variety, but likely when I pull into the field, I'm going to have a different seed in the bin. So you can add more than one variety, and also when you get to the field, if it's not the right variety, you can change it in the cab. So here, I'm actually going to do a prescription. So if I have a flat rate, I can type that in here, but I'm going to do a prescription that I created. So here's my preview, pretty busy prescription, what my units are. In my setup too, if I have a rate controller and I'm doing 1034.0, I could set that up as well. In this example, I do not. And you can also apply a prescription. Which guidance lines? So I only have two guidance lines. I'm going to load them here. This line here, that's got a star. That'll pre-populate right when I load this plan. You have to choose your equipment. And again, you can choose more. If you got two planter tractors, two planters, you can create a work plan for both of them. And then down here, this is optional. Work order is for custom folks. Sometimes they have a ticketing system. But my favorite is this work instructions. And you'll see this in the video. This is what's going to pop up on the screen when this work plan is selected. Plant. So let's say you don't want certain traits, or if there's a disease issue, you can say, hey, do not plant this variety in this field. So I'm going to click Save. So here's my new work plan. I could go through and create all the work plans, and then similar to setup file, I can check the box and hit Send to Equipment, and that's going to wirelessly show up on the screen. So now I'm going to switch gears. I'm going to show you what this looks like in the cab. Okay, so in this simulation, on the left side, we have a Gen 4 with a work plan, and on the right side, we have one without work plan. So you do, in order to get the best bang for this, you need a boundary. If you have a boundary, this will automatically pop up when you enter the field. Okay, so I entered the field. It says planned work for current position. Tells just what the field name, farm name, what variety it is. You can review this. So this is where you can change the variety if this is not the accurate variety. I'm going to hit OK, accept it. And now this is where it pops up. It says tender at the south gate. So that where I put do not plant conventional, that's where it would pop up there. Now the prescription loaded, the guidance line loaded, and now we can go plant. This guy on the right here is still manually typing everything in. And the guy on the left is just reviewing everything and making sure everything's right, but he could be planting. So pretty awesome. Okay, so we spent some time going over the website, and that's all great, getting things prepped for the season. But really, when you get to doing actual field work with the Operations Center mobile app and connected machines, that's where the power of this system really becomes apparent to allow you to make actionable decisions in season. So since we're not actively farming, now I'm going to show you a few slides of what things look like in the mobile app when you have actively farming machines. So first off, on that home page, the home page is where we see that timeline of events on your farm, and all these machines that are actually doing work give you a status. So play is working, pause is idle, and the bridge and row, that's transport. So you can see very quickly who's doing what, and you can get a quick snapshot of fuel status, fuel and def status for each machine. While things are actually farming too, you can look at the status of the day and see how much work is actually getting done. This is the chip underneath the tractor tab. It says today, gives you the idle working transport status. We actually had a co-op that they had leased several machines from us, and they had one machine that was continually getting more, like double the idle time than everybody else. So using the mobile app, they were able to figure out, okay, who was operating it at that time, and they called the guy and found out that he was new. It was his first year, and he said, "Yeah, well, you guys don't let me smoke inside the cab, so I have to stop and take a smoke break about every 20 to 30 minutes." So they were able to fix the problem. Also, you'll see here, we can't simulate that because we don't have an active machine, but this is also where you can remote display into the cab right from your phone. So we've been able to do this for quite some time. We as a dealership use remote display access all the time, especially in the busy season, to help people walk through the monitor. This is fully enabled for you guys as well. You can remote in and help your operators. This is a relatively new feature with, I think, in the last 12 months. If you have a 4G modem or MTG in your machine, this will actually update the location of the machine. Deere says around every 5 seconds, I'd say at least 30 to 60 seconds, the location will update. This is actually a guy that posted this screenshot or screen recording on YouTube, or excuse me, on Twitter. So you can see it's updating in near real time, that little blue dot. That's what it looks like on the app. You can tell where your location is, which is handy if you're going to go out and scout. You can actually use your phone to see where you're at in the field, to either scout the crop, find a rock that somebody pinned, find a tile line. And then the common question we get here, you see this pickup icon. Does John Deere sell pickups? No, somebody said that they wish. They do not. So in this example, this operation, they put a modem, a 4G modem, in their semi. So we have several customers that are doing this. All you need to do is get the modem itself, a power harness that's relatively inexpensive, and an antenna. And all you need is 12 volts, and you can put this in anything on the farm to get location update right in the mobile app. And once you spend the money with now the free JD Link connectivity, there is no ongoing subscription fee for that. Another thing you'll notice here on this view is this little greenish breadcrumb trail. This is the location history. So you'll see on the mobile app the last day's location history. And we actually had one of the clinics, we had a customer that he has a day job where he works in town in a cubicle, and he'd prop his iPad up on the wall, and so he could see his dad planting during the day, because he plants at night, the sun, and so he's able to critique how well his dad was planting the headlands and everything. Active work, you'll see this icon next to a field that's actively getting farmed. And then one other thing you'll see, I know this was kind of a quick shot, but you'll see this progress bar. See this blue progress bar? That's saying that 32% of that field has been covered. And that type of information, total coverage, total acres, that updates every 30 to 60 seconds as well. Okay, so now we're going to go over the Operations Center mobile app. So this defaults to your home screen. So there's home, map, plan, and analyze. So home, this is what I consider like a timeline of events on your farm that shows you from high to low the most recent things that have happened. You can see I have corn seeding, tells me the date, the time, and then corn harvest. Again, this test account only has a couple fields in it. And then on the top, I can see my equipment. This, if I was actively doing work, you would see the equipment that's currently working on the top. This calendar icon, this is kind of handy. If I tap on that, you can see I have a little green dot on May 8th. Any date that had active work happening would be highlighted, and it'll be color coded. So orange will be harvest, blue will be application, brown will be tillage, and green is seeding. So what's nice about this is we get later in the season and you kind of forget what happened. Usually every spring there's one day that you shouldn't be planting, but you don't know about that until later. So let's say we get past planting and everybody says, you know what, got to watch out every field that we planted on May 2nd. We got to look out for crusting. So you can go right back to the calendar here and look, well, you know, I didn't have anything planted on May 2nd, but I did on May 8th. Tap on that, it's going to take me to that date. Also, if I tap on the card of the operation, I can quickly see what I did. If I tap map, it's going to take me right to that field. On the top, it tells me what that operation was, 2020 corn seeding. It defaulted to varieties right now. I can swipe my legend to the right and see what varieties. So again, if you're out there in this field, you'll see a little blue dot that'll show you your location. So if you want to scout a variety difference, but you can also pull up other layers, applied rate, speed, and depending on your vintage of your planter, you could possibly see other things as well. I swipe up here, it gives me a summary. What varieties did I do? What was my total rate? What's nice now in the Operations Center, you can see this edit buttons here. So if I did screw up and typed in the wrong variety, I can change that right here. If I want to post-calibrate the area seeded, let's say my crop insurance says that this is 196 acres and you just want it to match, you can do that right here. So that's kind of speaks to what John Deere is doing, is they are moving more and more things that you used to have to do in the Operations Center website now to the mobile app. Like yield now. You can actually post-calibrate your yield right from the mobile app. Weather is another chip up here you can pull up. It will automatically document this based on the local conditions from the internet. If you do want to, see there's an equipment chip here. If you type in the conditions in the display, they will come in here as well, which might be handy if you're spraying in a valley and there's no wind, but up on the bluff there's wind and you want to document that, you can do that right here. You got wind speed, temperature, direction, and humidity. And this will show up on the application maps. These conditions will show up on some of the reports. And this again is a benefit if you have boundaries in the system. You don't have to go through and search the field names. I can just zoom out, tap that field, and it's going to select that boundary. Again, we got directions and sharing. You have employees that you want to have access to this mobile app, and you don't want them to see the yield maps. There's actually settings in the website where you can give people more or less access, and one of the settings is just see equipment and just see field boundaries so they can get directions. So that's the map app, or map button, I should say. Plan, we created a work plan on the website. and it showed up here. So I can see what the plan is supposed to be. If I want to change it, I can go through here and choose a different variety if I change my mind. Assign the prescription that I have loaded and hit save. So, or if I just want to create a whole total new plan, I can hit add. And as long as all my fields, guidance lines, products are all preloaded in the system, I can go through and do that right from the mobile app. I don't have to go back and be tethered to the computer. Last page here is Analyze. This is basically a glorified spreadsheet, and this does look very similar, almost identical to what's on the website, but in a mobile format. I chose my 2006 corn harvest. Gives me a quick summary of the yield for my fields. That little dashed line is my average yield for the two fields. So you can quickly see which fields did the best. Same thing with varieties. I can tap on varieties and I can see which varieties stacked up the best. This one was my best one this year, and I can see which field that was in. And there's a lot of quick shortcuts throughout this mobile app. If I want to quickly go to that south field and see that layer, I don't have to go back to map. I can just tap the map icon and it pulls it right up. And again, on this Analyze tab, if I go to any view, if I want to share this with somebody, I can hit this sharing button, the page with the arrow pointing up, and I can email, text, a PDF report, or an Excel file to whoever I want right from my phone.